introduce our next speaker, who is Lihar Pillado. Lihar studied international business and entrepreneurship at Mondragón University in Spain and Timi Academia in Finland. He works as a team coach at Mondragón Team Academy and Mondragón University, and he just returned from taking a group of students to India and is about to leave again to go to China and Shanghai with a group of students, the same group, I believe. As a member of the team that is expanding this educational model around the world, Lihar believes that teampreneurship is enabling transformation of society, economics, and the environment. Lihar is speaking to us tonight about radical educational innovation at Team Academy. Please welcome Lihar Pillado.
Today, I'm not going to talk about Mondragón because I think probably either 100% of you or maybe 90-something% of you know about Mondragón, so we can skip that part. But there's this one pretty unique school that I want to talk about, and one school that we partnered up about 6 years ago. There is basically 3 principles that I would like to acknowledge before moving on, and I think you all will agree. And the first one is that cooperatives are platforms that can enable a more egalitarian and economic and social development. Secondly, cooperatives can prevent bubbles and ultimately gentrification, one of the biggest challenges probably that Bay Area is facing these days. And lastly, I could call it, and I don't know if all of you agree, that the cooperatives are schools for after school. So schools or environments where people not only develop their skills, no matter what their job they're developing, it might be ranging from computer sciences or other hands-on work, but also their human side. So as I said before, you probably all know a lot about Mondragón, but one of the things that people don't know about is that Mondragón has been about 60 years now going on, and the 85% of the companies were created within the first 30 years of its history, whereas only 15% were created the last 30 years. So about 6 years ago, there was this alarm created, right, or this awareness being raised within the people at the business school. And then we realized about the need of reinventing the capacity that, or the entrepreneurial capacity that Mondragón had back in its days. And we looked to different schools around the world, and the one that came closest to our values was this unique school called Team Academy. And I'm going to talk later on what are the unique values or the, what do they make this unique, this school. So actually, what happens in this school that we partner up with and that we brought back to Mondragón in the Basque Country is that the schools, the students from the first day, they are set in teams of 15 members, and they create their own cooperatives from the first day at the school. And the cooperative is run throughout the 4 years that the studies last. So rather than we are waiting in education that people will get knowledge, and suddenly after graduation, people will create cooperatives, or they will create companies. And that hardly happens. And we believe that we want to accelerate that process and bring that creation and learning process to the school and empower the students from the first day through their teams, create the cooperatives, create these companies, and use them as vehicles for learning throughout the 4 years that the studies last. In these companies, they are not given what they are supposed to do, but it's actually based on a passion and interest to do whatever they want to create. So some of the students might be into graffitis, and they might start painting some small businesses. And actually, this graffiti company these days has been painting over 100 businesses, and some of the most famous restaurants in the city, in San Sebastian, has hired them to paint their 3 Michelin star restaurant. So these are some of the examples. And one more feature, that the reason that I'm coming from India is because we take our students to Finland the first year, to San Francisco in the second year, and to China and India in the third year, because we believe in the importance of creating citizens with a global mindset. So when we actually travel with them, the students get to interact with the companies and entrepreneurs that are based on these different ecosystems or entrepreneurial ecosystem around the world, and they get to work with multiple customers and companies that are set on these different locations. Additionally, what you realize is that we were talking today in the morning about the US, Europe reality, but at the end of the day, we're talking about 700 million people. Whereas when we go to China and India, we're talking about 3 billion people. So actually, the work we do back home in Europe or in the US doesn't really make any sense if that work doesn't serve the needs in these other countries as well. So how are we doing our work from the unit of entrepreneurship? We are addressing through different learning programs that we offer. One of them is the undergraduate program called LANE, and it's a full major on entrepreneurship. So it's officially approved by the Ministry of Education of Spain, and all this actual experimental learning takes place within the university context. And then we've been working as well on a master level, mostly with innovation leaders from Mondragón companies, as well as many other companies from the Basque Country and Spain. We've got another program called EKIN we've been working with 3 different regional development agencies, working with unemployed people. And then the last one is the Team Mastery, which is Train the Trainers program. So we actually are currently offering or training people in China and India and different parts of Europe that will actually get the skills and the tools of our educational model and create and replicate these systems in whatever the institution they are working for. Back home in the Basque Country, so actually our undergraduate students, they have created so far 24 cooperatives, but this year is going to be, I think it's going to be about 6 more. So by the end of around Christmas time, we will have already 30 cooperatives created. And then all the people that are involved on these different programs are stated there on the slide. But I would say the impact is getting big, and within only 5 years, actually in the campus that I've been working at, for example, our students have been invoicing almost 2 million euros. So one of my thoughts that I have been seeing as well, like how in the 3rd or 4th year of the studies, 21, 22-year-old students, they're already